He wore a $30 thrift store hoodie, black joggers, and beat-up running shoes with loose laces. To the crew of Aurora Skies Flight 718, he looked like a glitch in the system. To them, first class was a curated showroom of wealth, tailored suits, designer bags, silk scarves. He didn't fit. They saw a backpack instead of a briefcase. They saw frizzy hair instead of a blowout. They saw a nobody, so they decided to treat him like one. They rolled their eyes when he asked a question, ignored him when he pressed the call button. They whispered about people who sneak into first class, within earshot. They didn't know that the man in 1C wasn't just a passenger. He was Nick Hill Aurora, and 2 hours earlier. In a glass tower overlooking Manhattan, Nick Hill had signed a binding agreement that made him the majority owner of Aurora Skies International, the very airline he was sitting on. This isn't just a story about bad service. This is a story about what happens when arrogance meets authority and loses in real time at 38,000 feet. Buckle up. The cabin crew isn't the only thing about to get shaken. 10 hours earlier, JFK Terminal 4 had felt like a pressure cooker. Rain slapped the tall windows, blurring the view of taxiing jets into streaks of light. The departures board flickered with delays, cancellations, and angry Red Sea agent messages. The air smelled like wet coats and burnt espresso. In a quiet corner near gate B21, Nikhil rubbed the bridge of his nose. No sleep, no shower. 48 hours of lawyers, bankers, and board members all saying different versions of the same thing. We don't have a choice. If Aurora Skies doesn't merge with your company, it's done in 6 months. Nikhil had built Quantum Ledger, a global fintech giant that processed payments for half the travel industry. Aurora Skies, once a proud international carrier, was bleeding cash and riddled with scandals. The solution had been brutal but simple. Quantum Ledger would rescue them by buying them. At 3:11 p.m. Eastern, on a secure tablet, Nikhil signed his name, 0.51% ownership, effective immediately. Voting control. Final say over every executive, every route, every plane, but right now, he didn't want a press conference or a photo op. He wanted a nap, a flat bed, and a quiet flight to Dubai, where he'd announce the deal at Aurora's Gulf headquarters. His Gulfstream was in maintenance. Private jet life was cute, but jets still broke, so he'd booked something he rarely used anymore, a regular, paid, first-class ticket. Aurora Skies Flight 718 to Dubai is now boarding, Group 1. First class and elite Zenith members only. The paw crackled over the din. Nikhil slung his backpack over one shoulder and walked toward the boarding lane. There were only a few people in the first-class line. A woman in a crisp white pantsuit tapping furiously on a tablet. An older gentleman in a navy suit with a metallic briefcase. A heavy-set man in an aggressively loud checkered blazer. Rolex flashing under the fluorescent lights. As Nikhil stepped into the queue, the man in the blazer cleared his throat, loud. Enough for everyone to hear. "Hey, bud," he said, leaning closer, cologne hitting like a punch. "This is Group 1. Priority boarding. Economy's over there." He gestured vaguely toward the sea of tired families and backpackers. Nikhil glanced at the sign, then at the man. "I know," he said. The man's lips curled. "Hey, sure you do," he muttered. "Guess they'll let anyone clog up the lane these days." Nikhil let it slide. He'd been underestimated his whole life. Hoodies were better camouflage than any corporate badge. At the podium, the gate agent Miranda looked worn down but professional. Her eyes glanced over Nikhil's outfit before dropping to the phone he offered. She scanned the QR code. Beep! Beep! Her screen flashed a code she'd never seen before. CX-Prime-01. Her brows knit. That wasn't Diamond, Platinum, or Crew. Miranda tapped the screen. The system prompted, "Executive class, owner-level access. Do not downgrade. Do not reassign." "Mr. Aurora?" she asked. "That's me," he said. "You're in 1C, she said slowly. "Is this a staff ticket? Company discount?" "Paid full fare," Nikhil said. "Last minute?" Her eyes lingered on the hoodie one more second. like her brain couldn't reconcile what the system was telling her. But the light was green. She handed back his passport. "Enjoy your flight." Behind him, the checkered blazer guy snorted. "Miranda, what's the point of priority if you don't enforce it?" Miranda's smile turned thin. "Have a good flight, Mr. Beaumont," she said without warmth. Remember that name? They'd all remember it by the end. Nikhil walked down the jet bridge, each step feeling heavier than it should. He hadn't told Aurora's staff he'd be on this flight. The board knew. The C-suite knew. But operations had no idea their new boss was about to walk through that aircraft door, and that was the point. You can't fix a company from a PowerPoint deck. You fix it by sitting in the seat every marketing brochure promises is world-class. And seeing how it actually feels, he stepped through the aircraft door. That's where everything began to go wrong. Standing at the door was a woman with razor-sharp eyeliner and a tighter smile. Her name tag read, Mona Cag, Cabin Service Manager, to the businessman in front of Nikhil. Her tone was syrup. "Welcome back, Mr. Sterling," she cooed. "We've got your usual champagne and ginger ale ready for takeoff?" "It's always a pleasure, Monica," he replied, shrugging off his cashmere coat. She caught it midair with trained elegance, then Nikhil stepped forward, and the temperature dropped to 10 degrees. Monica's smile snapped off, like someone killed the lights behind her eyes. "Boarding pass," she said. Handout voice suddenly flat. Nikhil lifted his phone. 1C. She snatched it, eyes flicking to the screen, then to his face, then to his hoodie. Her jaw tightened, like she was trying to chew through the word "why." Everything matched. Date, flight, seat, name. Her expression said she wished it didn't. "First aisle on your left," she said. "Try not to block the entry. We have actual priority customers behind you." "Right," Nikhil said quietly. Taking his phone back, he stepped into the first-class cabin. It wasn't the latest suite layout, but it was still lush. Wide leather seats that reclined to fully flat, soft mood lighting, brushed metal accents. Massive screens, crystal glassware, glinting in the overhead light. Seat 1C. Front row. Aisle. Prime. He hoisted his backpack into the overhead, sat down, and let out a long breath. His whole body felt like a battery stuck at 3%. Just a meal, a drink, and 6 hours of unconsciousness. That's all he wanted. A shadow fell across him. "Excuse me," came a familiar voice, tight as a rubber band about to snap. Nikhil looked. Up checkered blazer was glaring down at him, garment bag draped theatrically over his arm. "You're in 1C?" the man asked. "Yeah," Nikhil replied. The man's eyes narrowed, as if seats were a form of personal property. "That's usually my spot," he said. "I live on this route. Guess they're really selling upgrades to anyone with a credit card now." He slid aggressively into 1A beside Nikhil, draping his jacket across the armrest like it owned the seat 2. Monica entered the cabin with a silver tray of champagne flutes. Her shift in attitude was instant. "Mr. Beaumont," she purred as she reached 1A. "So good to have you back with us. Aurora wouldn't be the same without our zenith." "Elites, keep the bubbles flowing, Monica," Beaumont said. "Big deals this week." She laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd heard all day. Then she turned to Nikhil. Her eyes did a full inventory. Hoodie, joggers, shoes, backpack, still slightly poking out of the overhead. He smiled politely. "Could I get some water?" "Please. Sparkling, if possible." Her tone snapped to corporate ice. "We are currently serving pre-departure beverages for our premium guests," she said. Even though she was speaking to a guy in first class, "I'll see what I can do once we're in the air." Nikhil glanced at the 3 untouched glasses of champagne still on her tray. "You have drinks right there? These are accounted for," she lied easily. "Kindly refrain from making special requests during boarding. It slows down the process." Beaumont smirked into his flute. "There's a system, kid," he murmured. "You just got bumped to the bottom." Nikhil swallowed the irritation rising in his throat. He had just acquired an airline for billions, and he couldn't get a glass of water. He reached into his pocket and felt his phone, the same phone that held his owner access app, that could see inside every piece of data Aurora Skies had. He opened a secure chat to Leela Hassan. Chair of Aurora's board. Draft. On ASI 718 Seat 1C service. Issues already, will observe. His thumb hovered over send. Not yet, he thought. Let's see just how deep this rot goes. Pushback was late. The captain, Grant Lewis, came on the PA with the same copy-pasted apology every airline uses when they don't want to tell you what's actually wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, come aboard Aurora Skies Flight 718 to Dubai. We're just waiting on some final paperwork from ground control. Then we'll be on our way. Flight time is about 12 hours and 20 minutes. Sit back, relax, and let our world-class team take care of you. Nikhil looked at the fingerprint smudge on his unserved tray table. World-class, huh? Once the seatbelt sign pinged off and the nose tilted skyward, the cabin came alive. Warm bread smells drifted from the galley, soft clinks of cutlery, the pop of champagne corks, laughter, and the low murmur of deals being discussed over lobster and lamb. Everywhere, except 1C. No menu, no towel, no drink. Not even eye contact. Sarah, a younger flight attendant working the opposite aisle, kept glancing his way, empathy written all over her face. Each time she tried to drift closer, Monica would intercept, whisper something sharp, and redirect her. 30 minutes passed. Then 40B Beaumont was working on a second glass of champagne and an appetizer plate that looked like it cost more than Nikhil's shoes. Monica topped him up before his glass even hit the halfway. Mark, the dryness in Nikhil's throat was starting to hurt. He pressed the call. Button, ding, nothing. 10 minutes. He pressed it again. Ding, the curtain to the galley snapped open like a trap. Monica emerged, posture stiff, lips thinned into a line. She didn't walk all the way to his seat. She stopped halfway down the aisle and addressed him like he'd set off a fire alarm. Sir, said voice low, but edged with venom. You're disturbing the other guests? The call light is for urgent needs. Nikhil kept his tone level. I haven't been greeted. I haven't received a menu. I asked for water an hour ago. Everyone else has been served. We serve by status priority, Monica said, like she was correcting a child. She flicked her eyes down at the small tablet in her hand, scrolling. Over the list of names and codes? Next to his name, she saw something she didn't recognize. XO1. It might as well have been gibberish to her. You're on. Promotional fare, she declared, filling in her own narrative. Complimentary upgrades are served last, if catering allows. They're not guaranteed the full experience. Nikhil stared at her, stunned. I paid full fare, he said. Even if I hadn't, I'm in first class. The standard is the standard. Monica leaned in, voice dropping to a hiss. Don't tell me how to do my job, she snapped. I've been flying for 19 years. I know when someone's trying to milk the system. Hoodie, backpack, no checked bags. I've seen this play. You got lucky. Don't push it. Beaumont didn't even pretend to hide his grin. If he's such a problem, Monica, I'm sure you can move him, he said. This is supposed to be a quiet cabin. Flight is full. Mr. Beaumont, she replied, loud enough for everyone in row 1 to hear. But I can certainly make sure he doesn't disrupt you further. She turned back to Nikhil. I'm cutting you off from alcohol service, she said. Nikhil blinked. I haven't had anything, he said, and if you keep pressing that button, she continued, ignoring him, the captain will file a report for disruptive behavior. In some jurisdictions, that means police waiting at the gate. Do we understand each other? Nikhil felt a slow burn start in his chest. He was tired, hungry, thirsty, and now being threatened for asking for water. I understand perfectly. Monica, he said. Good. She stormed back toward the galley. Sarah's eyes met Nikhil's from across the cabin. She gave the smallest apologetic shrug like she wanted to help but didn't dare cross her boss. Nikhil exhaled. He opened his phone. The onboard Wi-Fi portal loaded slowly. The upsell page cheerfully informing him that unlimited premium surf cost $39.99. For the flight, he bought it without thinking and connected to Quantum Ledger's secure network. On his phone, a universe. Opened. Aurora's crew directory, flight manifest, discipline logs, customer complaint histories. He typed Monica Hale. There she was. Senior Cabin Service Manager, Employee ID, AS5421 base. New York, multiple service feedback complaints categorized as coached. Coached. Not corrected. He opened a blank email to Leela Hassan, Chair Sanjay Mananku. Nadia Weemet, Head of HR Subject. Immediate action required. Flight ASI 718, he wrote one line, then stopped. Before we move, I want them to write their own endings, we thought. He locked his phone and leaned back. The seat was comfortable. System was not. 2 hours into the flight, the cabin lights dimmed to a twilight glow. Most first-class passengers had finished their meals and reclined their seats. Nikhil's stomach growled. He'd been offered nothing. He decided to at least use the restroom and splash some water on his face. He unbuckled his belt and stood from the galley curtain. Monica watched him like a hawk. The forward lavatory is reserved for premium customers, she said, not moving from her spot. Nikhil stared. I'm in first class, he replied gently. I think I qualify. She didn't bother looking at his boarding pass. You've already been warned once, she said. Do not test me. The lav in the back is open. He glanced at the door. Just a few feet away, sign above it glowed vacant. No, out of order sticker. No tape. That one's clearly available, he said. He reached for the handle. Monica moved. She stepped between him and the door, putting her hand flat against his chest and pushing him back a step. It wasn't hard, but it was deliberate. A few heads turned. I said no, she snapped, raising her voice loud enough for the whole cabin. You need to sit down now before you compromise flight safety. The cockpit door opened. Captain Grant Lewis stepped out, frown already in place. What's the issue? He asked. Monica switched personas like a light. Her eyes went glossy with manufactured distress. Captain, she said, this passenger has been harassing me since takeoff. He's refusing instructions, trying to barge into the forward lav, shoving me when I block him. He's been aggressive. Nikhil's jaw dropped. That didn't happen, he said, keeping his voice measured. I tried to use the restroom. She blocked me. She shoved me. Did he touch you? The captain asked Monica, ignoring Nikhil. Yes, she lied. He grabbed my arm. I feel unsafe. Mamont's voice floated lazily from 1A, saw the whole thing, Captain. Guy's been trouble since boarding? Some people don't know how to act up here. Something in Nikhil's stomach sank. This was no longer just rudeness. This was a false report. A serious one, sir, Nikhil said, turning. To Captain Lewis, before you do anything, I recommend you check the manifest. Next to my name, there's a code. X01. You'll want to know what that means. Captain Lewis's face hardened. I don't need a lecture from a passenger on how to run my airplane, he barked, assaulting a crew member and refusing. Instructions crosses the line. He reached into the compartment above the galley and pulled out a pair of plastic restraints. Turn around, he ordered. You're making a mistake, Nikhil said quietly. A big one. Last warning, the captain said. Hands behind your back, or this becomes an emergency diversion and a lifetime ban. Nikhil thought of all the people whose jobs depended on this company not becoming a circus. He turned. Around the zip ties bit into his wrists. Too tight. Sharp plastic dug into his skin. Monica, take him to the aft jump seat, Captain Lewis said. Strap him in. He doesn't move from there until we land. We'll notify Dubai authorities. We have an unruly passenger on board. With pleasure, Monica said. She marched Nikhil down the aisle. First class, then business, then premium economy. Then the curious stares of coach, some passengers whispered. Others looked away. To them, he was just another headline waiting to happen. Disruptive passenger restrained on international flight. He didn't lower his head. If anything, his back got straighter. I'm keeping your phone up here with me, Monica said when they reached the back galley, eyeing his pocket. He smiled faintly. Already in the jump seat, he lied. She didn't bother checking. She just shoved him into the fold-down seat by the lab door and yanked the belt tight across his chest. Enjoy the economy section. Hoodie boy, she whispered. Maybe next time you'll stay where you belong. She disappeared, curtains swishing behind her. Nikhil shifted, grimacing as plastic dug deeper into his skin. Then slowly he twisted his shoulders, bringing his tied hands just close enough to slip 2 fingers into his back pocket. The phone was there. He dragged it out, inch by careful inch. Screen lighting up his hands. Face ID unlocked on the first try. He opened the Aurora Skies Executive app, something IT had installed on his device that morning. Flight overview. NASA 718. New York Dubai status. En route captain Grant Lewis. Cabin manager Monica Haley. Bright red button pulsed at the bottom of the screen. Trigger priority black owner distress not for test use. He tapped it. Somewhere far away, a siren went off in a room full of people who actually understood what that button meant. 8 time zones away, in a sleek operations center on the outskirts of Dubai.
Ow.
The night shift was running on autopilot. Rows of screens displayed live satellite views of Aurora's routes, weather systems and maintenance statuses. Supervisors sipped coffee, chatting quietly. Then one screen turned red, not amber, not yellow. Red dot. An alarm blared, cutting through the murmur. Ops, a controller called out, squinting at his monitor. Just got a priority black from Flight ASI 718. Head snapped up. Priority black wasn't a technical failure. It wasn't turbulence. It wasn't a medical emergency. It was 1 level below hijack, and it had a single authorized trigger. Owner distressed verified device only. In an office overlooking the operations floor, Layla Hassan, chair of Aurora's board, was reviewing a draft press release about the merger that had just saved the airline. Her phone rang. The internal line is the one no one used, unless something was truly on fire. She answered, "Layla." "Ma'am, this is Control," the supervisor said, voice tight. "We have a code black. Flight 718, New York to Dubai. The signal is coming." From a device registered to Nikhil, Aurora. Leela's heart dropped into her stomach. "Nikhil's on 718. She asked, "Yes, ma'am." Authenticated through the owner app. He sent a short text via SATCOM. "I'm reading it now, read." The supervisor swallowed, zip-tied at rear jump seat. False accusation of crew assault. Cabin manager and captain. Acting on bias and fabrication. Witness collusion. Immediate investigation required. If not addressed mid-flight, I will take corrective action at board level on landing. Layla closed her eyes for half a second. Of all the flights, of all the days, of all the crews, this one, what's the captain's name? She asked. Grant Lewis, and cabin manager? Monica Hale. Leela's jaw tensed. She knew. Those names, both. Lewis had a reputation for being old school. Monica had been coached more times than HR liked to admit. She stood, clicking across the polished floor as she strode into the ops center. "Get me the cockpit of 718, she said. "Override priority. I want to be in his headsets in 30 seconds. "We've pinged them, ma'am," an IT tech said. No response. "Cockpit comms are set to do not disturb." "Override," she repeated. "That doesn't work." "Flash cabin lights, send a car's messages. I don't care. That button is not a suggestion." Technicians flew into motion. Back on ASI 718 in the cockpit, Captain Lewis leaned back, sipping lukewarm coffee. "You think we'll get a note from security thanking us?" He asked his first officer, a younger pilot named Malik. Malik shifted uncomfortably. "Are you sure he grabbed her?" "Doesn't matter," Lewis said. "Monica said he did. In this job, you back your crew. These hoodie types are always the same." Titled, "Thinks the rules don't apply." A shrilled tone cut through the cockpit, louder and more insistent than the usual chime. On his display, a message flashed. "Corporate override answer immediately." Lewis frowned. "What now?" he grumbled, hitting the accept button. "This is Captain Lewis's 718, he said into the headset. "Go ahead." The voice on the other end was not dispatched. It was Leela, and she was furious. "Captain Lewis," she said, her tone like a drawn blade. "This is Chairwoman Hassan. I'm patching in from Dubai. We need to clarify something immediately. Lewis straightened. His mouth went dry. The last time he'd heard her voice was in a video about Aurora's values. Yes, ma'am. He said, "What seems to be the issue? Where's the passenger in seat 1C? She asked. Lewis glanced at the empty front seat on his iPad seat map. Then at the block mark in the rear, we had a disruptive passenger in 1C, he said. He was harassing my cabin manager, refused instructions, attempted to force access to the forward lav. He's been restrained in the aft jump seat per protocol. He'll be met by security in Dubai." The line went quiet. So quiet, Malik looked over, unsure if the connection had dropped. "Captain," Ella said, voice low and deadly calm. "The man you have zip-tied at the back of your aircraft is Nikhil Arora." Lewis blinked. I don't know who that is, ma'am." Lila's control finally cracked. "He's the founder of Quantum Ledger, the majority owner of Aurora Skies," she snapped. "As of this afternoon, he holds controlling interest over this airline. Is your employer. He's my employer. Have restrained and humiliated the owner of the company mid-flight based on a fabricated incident report." Color drained from Lewis's face so fast it was like someone flipped a switch. "There must be some mistake," he whispered. He was wearing a hoodie. Lee winced. Layla didn't even respond to that. "You're going to go back there," she said. "You are going to release him. And you are going to pray, if that's your thing, that he doesn't ground you and your cabin manager permanently. Do you understand me, Captain?" Lewis swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am, and Captain. Yes." "Do not make any announcement to the passengers," she said. "From this moment until landing, you speak only to air traffic control. We'll handle the rest." The line went dead. Lewis's hands shook so badly he nearly dropped his headset. "What just happened?" Malik asked, voice small. Lewis stared through the windshield at the endless dark. He said hollowly, "just arrested the owner." Monica was halfway through another dramatic retelling of the aggressive hoodie guy. To the business class crew, when the cockpit door flew open so hard it banged off the stop, "She jumped, Captain," she said, startled. "Is everything Lewis?" Looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. His face was pale, jaw clenched, sweat beading at his temples. "Come with me," he said. "Is he causing more trouble?" she asked. "I told you he was, now, Monica," Lewis bit out, voice shaking. He barreled down the aisle toward the back of the plane. Monica scampered after him, heels clicking, suddenly off balance. "Roger. You can't go charging through the cabin looking like that," she hissed. "You'll scare the premium customers. Be quiet," he snapped. Passengers watched them pass, confusion rippling through the cabin. In the rear galley, Nikhil sat where they'd left him, wrists red and raw, belt biting into his chest. The smell of instant noodles and stale coffee hung heavy in the cramped space. He turned his head slowly as they burst in. His eyes were calm, Mr. Aurora, Captain Lewis said, and the mister sounded like it hurt his teeth. "Sir, I need to apologize. I made a grave error in judgment. I was misinformed." Nikhil regarded him for a beat, then glanced at the trauma shears in Lewis's hand. "Those for me?" he asked, "or for your career?" Lewis' knees almost buckled. I need to remove those restraints, sir," he said. "This is clearly a misunderstanding." Nikhil pulled his hands away from the shears' reach. "Careful, Captain. If you cut them, you're admitting there was no threat. That your security report is fiction." Lewis swallowed. "It was an overreaction. I'm prepared to put that in writing." Keel shifted his gaze to Monica. Her earlier bravado had evaporated. Her eyeliner was smudged, her cheeks blotchy. She looked like someone who'd just realized the dragon she'd been poking was very, very real. "Monica," he said softly, "did I shove you? Did I grab your arm? Did I try to? Break into the cockpit?" Her lower lip trembled. I felt unsafe," she stammered. "You were intense. You stood too close. It's my job to protect the cabin. It's not what I asked," Nikhil said. Silence stretched. "No," she whispered finally. "You didn't grab me." "Did you tell the captain I did?" he asked. Her eyes filled. "I may have exaggerated," she said. but only because I've had so many difficult passengers and no support. I'm under so much pressure. You framed someone for a federal-level offense because of a hoodie, Nikhil said. That's not pressure. That's abuse. Is she broke? Please, she whispered. I have a mortgage. My mother is sick. I've given my whole life to this airline. Don't let one bad day. Nikhil's expression didn't soften. Cut them, he told the captain. Louis nearly tripped over himself getting to Nikhil's wrists, snipping the plastic. Red lines stood out, angry and raised on his skin. Nikhil stood slowly, rolling his shoulders, testing circulation. Stand up, Captain, he said. You kneeling in front of the love is making people nervous. Louis scrambled upright. Sir, if you'll allow us, we'll move you back to first. Clear. The cabin? Open a special bottle. Anything you need? You don't have the authority to offer me anything, Nikhil said. Not anymore. He turned to Monica. You're done for this flight, he said. You will not serve. You will not speak to passengers. You will sit here in this jump seat by the lav, and you will stay here until we land. If anyone asks, why, you can tell them the truth or stare at the floor. Your choice. Her mouth fell open. That's degrading, she whispered. Everyone will see. That's the point, he said. He looked back at Louis. You will return to the cockpit, and you will fly this plane safely to Dubai, he said. You will make no announcements, no speeches, no excuses. You will not leave that seat until the engines are off. Understood? Yes, sir, Louis said, voice barely audible. Send your first officer forward to verify the cabin, Nikhil added. I don't trust your judgment on anything except staying on the glide slope. Louis fled like the plane was on fire. Nikhil turned to the junior flight attendant hovering in the doorway, a young guy with wide eyes and a coffee pot in his hand. What's your name? Nikhil asked. Ethan, sir, he stammered. And the woman in first class who kept trying to help before Monica cut her off? That's Sarah, sir, he said. Good, Nikhil said. Go tell Sarah I'd like to speak with her in the forward galley. And Ethan, yes, you and Sarah are running this cabin now, he said. Don't make me regret it. Ethan's posture straightened a full inch. Yes, sir, he said, voice firmer. As Ethan hurried away, Nikhil glanced once more. At Monica, she buckled the jump seat belt with trembling hands. For the first time all day, she looked small. He stepped through the curtain, heading back toward the front of the plane. This time the walk felt different. By the time Nikhil reached the first-class galley, Sarah was waiting, palms slick, heart hammering in her chest. Mr. Aurora? She asked quietly. Ethan said. Are you okay? Better now, Nikhil said. You tried to help earlier, I noticed. She flushed. I didn't do much, she said. Monica did everything she could to stop you, he finished, which tells me more about you than about her. He glanced at her name tag. How long have you been flying, Sarah? 4 years, she said. I'm trained as lead, but I've never been given a route. Seniority, politics, I know, he said. As of this moment, you are the acting cabin service manager of Flight 718. Monica is relieved of duty. Her eyes went wide. I don't... You do, he interrupted. You know how to offer water without judging shoes? That's enough for me right now, she exhaled, shoulders squaring, a spark of resolve lighting behind her eyes. Sir, she said, what would you like me to do first? Start simple, he said. Get me that sparkling water, then a meal. Then make sure every passenger on this aircraft is treated like a human being, regardless of what's on their feet. She nodded and went to work in less than 5 minutes. Nikhil was back in 1C with a line-covered table, hot food, and a chilled glass of sparkling water. Beaumont stared, fork frozen halfway to his mouth. They let you out? He asked, incredulous. Nikhil looked at him, expression unreadable. Charles Beaumont, right? He asked. Long-time Aurora flyer? Zenith Elite? Beaumont blinked. Yes, he said. Highest tier they have. Not anymore, Nikhil said. Beaumont frowned. Hey! What's that supposed to mean? It means, Nikhil replied, calmly slicing into his food. I've reviewed your behavior today. You were happy to pile on when you thought I was powerless. You were eager to have me removed for daring to exist near you. He nodded toward. Sarah, please clear Mr. Beaumont's tray. Beaumont recoiled. I'm not finished, he said. You're done, Nikhil said, still not raising his voice. Your status is being revoked. Your profile is being marked as ineligible for future Aurora Skies flights. You'll be taken off the return leg when we land. Beaumont's face went slightly green. You can't do that, he sputtered. I spend hundreds of thousands with this airline. I know senior people. I am senior people, Nikhil said. The news when you land. Don't. You won't be seeing much of our planes either way. Sarah cleared his plate. Beaumont opened his mouth and glanced around and saw every pair of eyes in first class on him. He shut it and stared at his lap. The rest of the flight became something else entirely. Nikhil didn't sleep. He opened his laptop and with Sarah's help, quietly started collecting data. How often did crews get formal complaint reports versus off-third chord coaching? How were schedules built? Who was consistently on flights with high complaint scores? How much overtime was unpaid? How many times had Monica's name come up in HR reports? Sarah answered cautiously at first, then more freely as she realized. He wasn't looking to punish her. He was looking to understand. Ethan brought coffee. Not as a servant, but as a junior partner in an investigation neither had expected to be part of. In the very back of the plane, near the bathrooms, Monica sat strapped into the jump seat. Every passenger passing her on the way to the lav glancing at her, Aurora pin, and wondering why she wasn't moving. An older woman leaned down as she waited in line. Excuse me? Dear, the woman said kindly but confused. Can I get some water? I can't, Monica said softly, staring at the floor. Why not? The woman asked gently. Because Monica whispered, I'm not working this flight anymore. The approach into Dubai was rougher than usual. Outside, crosswinds buffeted the wings. Inside, the cabin felt even more turbulent. But for an entirely different reason. Rumors travel faster than Wi-Fi on long-haul flights by the time the seat belt sign dinged on for landing. Most of the passengers had heard some version of the story. The scruffy first-class passenger wasn't just rich, he owned the airline. The lead flight attendant had been benched mid-air. Captain wasn't talking anymore. The engines roared. The wheels slammed onto the runway. Reverse thrust howled. The usual landing announcement never came. Instead, as the plane rolled toward Gate 27, Nikhil unbuckled his belt and stood. Walking to the front galley, Sarah met his eyes, question marks in her expression. He picked up the PA, ladies and gentlemen, said his voice steady but carrying a current of steel. This is Nikhil Aurora speaking from seat 1C. The cabin went silent. As of today, I am the new majority owner of Aurora Skies International, he continued. I was traveling anonymously on this flight to see how our service feels from your side of the aisle. I want to apologize personally for the irregularities you've experienced today. What you saw was not a one-off misunderstanding. It was a symptom of something deeper we are going to fix. He paused, letting that sink in. You may notice security in corporate vehicles waiting at the gate, he said. They are not here for you, they are here for us. Specifically, for people who forgot what this job is supposed to be, serving others with dignity. He hung up the handset outside as the aircraft turned into the gate. Blue lights reflected off the rain-damped tarmac, mingling with the flash of camera phones pointed out windows. The door light turned green. Sarah took a deep breath, disarmed the door and swung it open. Standing on the jet bridge were Leela Hassan in a navy blazer, face stormy and composed. A security team, 2 airport police officers. A woman with a tablet and an HR badge clipped to her belt, Rania Sela, head of people and culture. Mr. Aurora, Layla said as she stepped on board. Are you all right? I will be, Nikhil said. But some things are about to change. He turned toward the cockpit. Captain Lewis, front of cabin, he called. Now. The cockpit door opened slowly. Captain Lewis stepped out. Hat off, eyes hollow. Monica, please come up. Nikhil said into the end-to-end. Ethan brought her forward. She looked wrecked. Mascara streaked, shoulders slumped. The arrogance that had pushed a man out of his seat earlier was nowhere to be found. The front galley was cramped, but Mikhail made sure everybody who needed to see saw Sarah, Ethan, the other flight attendants. Passengers in row 1, watching tensely from their seats. Captain Grant Lewis Nikhil said, voice formal now. Restrained a passenger without verifying facts. Accepted a serious accusation without reviewing a manifest that clearly flagged my status. You weaponized security protocol because you liked Monica's narrative better than the truth. Lewis stared at the floor. You are relieved of duty effective immediately, Nikhil said. Leela nodded. Captain Lewis, your contract is terminated per clause regarding gross misconduct and reputational harm, she said. Your access badge is deactivated. Authorities would like a statement. The police officer stepped forward, not cuffing him, but placing a hand on his arm. I've flown for 25 years, Lewis murmured. Numbly, I have a pension. You had a pension? Layla said quietly. You traded it for bias. They let him off the plane. Silence settled in the doorway. Monica Hale, Nikhil said. Her eyes filled again. But she didn't speak. You treated uniforms like rank, not responsibility, he said. You made yourself judge and jury of who belongs in a seat they paid for. You lied about an assault to get your way. You humiliated a paying customer and threatened him with arrest. And you'd have done it to anyone else who didn't fit your idea of premium. I'm sorry, she whispered. I really am. You're sorry you got caught, Nikhil said. Not sorry you were cruel. He glanced at Rania from HR. Her file? They asked. Pattern of complaints, Rania said. All minimized, all coached. No formal consequences. That ends today, Nikhil said. Monica, you are terminated for cause. Security will escort you off. You are banned from flying on Aurora aircraft in any capacity. Monica's shoulders shook. No one spoke up for her. Not even the colleagues who'd once rallied behind her. Go, Nikhil said softly. She did. Nikhil turned to Beaumont in 1A, Mr. Beaumont, he called. The man looked like he wanted to melt into his seat. You may disembark with the other passengers, Nikhil said. But your return ticket is canceled and your frequent flyer account has already been closed. Effective immediately, you are no longer welcome on Aurora skies. I didn't do anything, Beaumont said weakly. You did exactly what? You thought you could get away with? Nikhil replied. Enjoy your next airline. Don't bring that attitude on board with you. Beaumont grabbed his bag and shuffled off, avoiding every eye. Finally, Nikhil turned to Sarah and Ethan Rania. He said, the tablets. She handed him 2 slim devices. Sarah, he said. You showed empathy when every incentive around you told you to look away. You stepped up when I asked, without training, without warning, and you handled chaos with grace. Held out. The first tablet. As of today, you're being moved off the line into our new Director of In-Flight Experience role. You'll help rebuild training from the ground up. Salary, he glanced at Rania, tripled. Staff travel perks upgraded. Office in Dubai if you want it, remote if you don't. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. You're kidding, she whispered. I'm very awake, he said. Say yes when you can breathe again. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Ethan, he said, turning to the younger attendant. You followed orders, but you also treated me like a person, even when I was zip-tied next to your coffee maker. You're promoted to senior purser, effective next rotation. Don't become the kind of boss you just watched lose everything. I won't, sir, Ethan said, straightening taller. Nikhil looked past them into the cabin. Now he said quietly, let's get our guests off this plane. As passengers finally began to disembark, some stopped to squeeze his arm, whisper thanks, or just nod with a knowing look. He walked down the jet bridge with Layla and the executive team beside him. Same hoodie, same shoes, same backpack, completely. A different level of respect in the arrivals hall, away from the curious phones and exhausted travelers. He finally stopped and exhaled. I didn't want a spectacle, he said to Layla. I just wanted to see my new company from seat level. And a glass of water? We've got our work cut out, Layla said. Good, he replied. Because this airline isn't going to be saved by fancy lounges and marketing. It's going to be saved or sunk by how we treat the person no one expects to matter. And that's how one flight turned into a live fire audit. A captain lost his wings. A cabin manager lost her career. A smug frequent flyer lost his golden status. 2 overlooked crew members got the break they'd always deserved, all because they forgot one basic truth. Character isn't measured by the clothes you wear, the card in your wallet, or the seat on your boarding pass. It's measured by how you treat people when you think they're nobody. Now, let me throw it back to you. If you were in Nick Hill's shoes, what would you have done? Would you have fired them outright or given them a second chance? Ever been judged or misjudged because of how you look, dress, or speak in public? Drop your story in the comments. I read as many as I can. If you want more stories like this, real-world power flips, instant karma at 38,000 feet, and people learning the hard way that respect goes both ways, hit that like button and smash. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, travel safe, be kind, and remember, you never actually know who you're talking to.